The Honorable Chief Justice and Associate Justices of the Supreme Court.
The House will come to order.
The Senate will come to order.
The question is, shall the joint resolution be adopted? The chair recognizes Representative Huffman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Rise in support today of House Joint Resolution number 1. Ohio is in a minority of states that has the lowest age limit at which someone can serve as a judge on our court. The age is 70, and that was established over 40 years ago. Certainly a different time in our history, and I think vitality and the advances in medical science and other ways that people live have changed the way that we look at folks who are 70 and 80 and older. There are, in fact, several states, 18, that have no limit on the age at which folks can serve as a judge. One state, actually, Vermont, has an age limit of 90, which I'm not sure why you would make a limit at that age. But recently, Illinois ruled the age limit unconstitutional. As many of you may know, the Supreme Court often appoints visiting judges to serve as on the bench, those who have retired. The Supreme Court, as of this year, has no limit on the age at which someone can serve. They can serve into their 80s or 90s even. There are, I think, a few principled arguments about this issue. The first, of course, is that we really want to judge people on their capabilities, on their merit, not simply on a number. There are of course, no age limits on someone who can serve as a legislature, in the legislature or as governor or any other elected office in the state of Ohio. I might note that we have legislators as young as, in this body, as young as 21 and as old as 77. And I don't think that we're going to simply stand up and say, because of your age, you're not able to serve. So there's certainly something fundamentally unfair about that. We also know, of course, that Justice Stevens on the United States Supreme Court is now 90 and serving with no age limit for the federal judiciary. Although I think Representative Murray was opposed to this in committee, he made what I thought was a really salient point on this issue, and that often when judges are elected for the first time or second time in their respective counties, they're done with a certain ideological bent. That is, it may be that the county is largely Democrat or largely Republican, and if they're a former elected office holder, as they often are, as maybe a prosecutor or some other position, that ideology often wins the primary and wins the seat. But something generally changes when someone serves on the bench, and that is that they begin to see both sides of the issue. If a prosecutor's elected, he often sees maybe a side of the issue that he didn't when he was prosecutor. And that maturity, that even-handedness, the wisdom, really, that someone gains after being on the bench for a considerable period of time is a quality that is important for the dispensation of justice, I think. To be clear, this vote today doesn't change the age limit in Ohio. What this vote does, of course, will send the resolution to the Senate, and ultimately will place it on the ballot for the people of the state of Ohio to decide the change. And so what we're doing today is simply saying we're not going to make a judgment necessarily. Now, a couple of folks said to me, well, why 75? Why don't we remove the limit altogether? And I think the answer is that, as we know, sometimes change comes in a difficult way to many people. So I think if we do change it to age 75, we will be in the majority of states that does have it at that limitation. I should note, of course, that the Ohio Judicial Conference has endorsed this effort, as well as the Ohio State Bar Association. So I think certainly lawyers are in a position to know the abilities of judges, and I think those of us who practice on a regular basis can see that often that judge who has been on the bench for a considerable period of time is in a position to be even-handed. And that's really the most important thing about being a judge. As many of us who practice on a regular basis say, you know, the judge doesn't necessarily have to know the material better than everybody else. The most important thing is that he's fair, that he's fair to both sides. And I think that maturity helps a lot. I want to thank particular Lisa Valentine, who has worked on this issue for at least 3 years, maybe 4. Some may recall that this issue was passed out of the Judiciary Committee in the last General Assembly. Lisa has worked closely with Ohio Supreme Court staff in moving this issue forward. For those of you who have questions, I should note there are a couple of other issues. There's some, I guess, what we'd call cleanup language, courts of conciliation, and some references to some bodies that were in the Constitution, have been there for about 140 years, but those institutions have never been used, so the Supreme Court asked that those be removed. So that's also part of the bill, but this really is about the issue of the age limitation, and I would ask for your support of this resolution. Thank you.
Question is, shall the joint resolution be adopted? The chair recognizes Representative Fendy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think I should have asked Representative Huffman if I could have spoken first, because all I can do is say ditto to what he said. But in all seriousness, I stand before you today and ask for your support for HJR 1. We often hear some form of the phrase, X is the new Y, as in 50 is the new 40, or 70 is the new 60. Well, in the case of HJR 1, 75 is the new 70. This resolution, as noted by Representative Huffman, will raise the mandatory retirement age of judges in Ohio from 70 to 75. Already, according to the Ohio Supreme Court guidelines, a retired judge can take an assignment to sit on a court until they are 80 years old. If it is acceptable for a retired judge to serve 10 years under the current mandatory retirement age, it stands to reason that they are not only capable of serving longer, but ought to have their mandatory retirement age raised. I believe this resolution will benefit not only individual judges that will soon face forced retirement, but benefit our judicial system as a whole. Since the last time the age of retirement for judges was raised in 1973, the average American life expectancy itself has been raised 7.3 years. That's 7.3 years more that Americans have to do with their life as they see fit, whether that be to enjoy a longer retirement or, in the case of older judges, continue to serve the communities that they have dedicated their lives and passion for the law to. Across the country, men and women are enjoying longer, more productive lives. Our communities benefit from the experience of trained professionals who have spent years perfecting their trade. Members of the judiciary are no different. Our court system benefits from long-serving judges' experience and will benefit further from the greater stability that comes as a result of judges being able to serve additional years on the bench. This resolution does not mandate our judges serve longer, but it provides for greater fairness by allowing them that option. And I just want to remind people that we are not voting to raise the age. I am only asking you for a yes vote so that this can be put on the ballot and the people of Ohio can make the decision. Maybe it won't pass, but if it goes to the vote of the entire state. But I'm just asking you to give the people of Ohio that option to vote on that issue. And I thank you for allowing me to speak, Mr. Speaker, and I ask for a yes vote on HJR 1.
Question is, shall the joint resolution be adopted? The chair recognizes Representative Slaby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise in support of the resolution, and I want to assure the group here that it is not my intent to go back if the people of the state of Ohio vote to raise the age to 75. I think I've had so much fun here in the House that I would rather stay here than going back on the bench. But I do want to speak in support of the resolution for a couple different reasons. The first reason is that's been already said, is that a number of individuals who are very productive and have great legal minds have unfortunately had to retire at what I consider a much earlier age than I would have liked to have stepped off the bench or been required to step off the bench. I also think it's a little ironic that I'm capable of making the laws, but I'm incapable of interpreting the laws. So I think it's important that we have individuals that have the age and the responsibility, the maturity to not only make the laws, but interpret the laws. And further, I'd also like to explain that what we do look for in the judiciary, or what I would look for in the judiciary, are those individual attorneys with great legal minds who have been in the private practice of law for a number of years and maybe have reached their 50s or 60s and wish to go into the judiciary, but unfortunately, if they're only looking for a tenure of about 10 or 15 years, they may choose not to do so. And I believe that we do lose the availability of some great legal minds by keeping the age limit at 70. And I would request your support, and I would ask for your support on this resolution.
The question is, shall a joint resolution be adopted? The chair recognizes Representative Mecklenburg.
Thank you, Speaker. I rise in support of this resolution, and I've listened very carefully to the arguments from learned colleagues on both sides of the aisle. And the irony to me is that there is support, apparently, for appointed judges beyond age 70 who really have no shackles on them. They have no citizen oversight. And I fail to see why it is okay to have unelected judges hearing cases as retired judges in the state of Ohio and not have elected judges that can do the same. At least the elected judges face the citizenry. I also think it trivializes the issue here to suggest that this is only a retirement plan or let's keep judges in office bill. I think that this resolution is a very serious recognition of the changing demographics of our state and the productive levels that people have throughout all ages in our state. And because of these reasons, I recommend passage of this resolution.
The question is, shall the resolution be adopted? The chair recognizes Representative Huffman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just to briefly respond to points made by Representative Murray. To be clear, the Supreme Court certainly does exercise oversight to all judges, regardless of their age, whether they be judges who are over 70 or under 70. We know that, unfortunately, in the legal profession and the judiciary, there are from time problems with a number of things that we don't necessarily have to describe, but those don't necessarily ascribe to anyone or any person or group of people based on their age. It may be that there have been so few referrals to the Supreme Court because of older judges, if they've been on the bench that long, have been those people who have served well and who local lawyers and the public know as a fair person. And I think that's more a testament to those judges' ability than anything else. The other part to this, of course, is that the people can decide whether someone has been on the bench too long at any election. And as Representative Mecklenburg commented accurately, there is a check on this, and that is if folks think someone shouldn't be serving if they're 69 or they're 62 or 73, then they don't have to reelect that judge to office. And that's really the best check of all. So again, I would urge resolution on this, or support for the resolution, Mr. Speaker.
Question is, shall the resolution be adopted? The chair recognizes Representative Kenny.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I had the unique opportunity to clerk for a federal judge both when he was in his 50s and then for a second time when he was in his 70s. And I stand in support of the bill in part because the federal judiciary provides the model for having lifetime appointment and the benefits that we see with judges with that. But as I mentioned to Judge Dowd, who I worked for, you were good in your 50s, but your touch as a judge in your 70s is so much better with the way that you work with clients and settlement conferences. Every part, the same good judge, but there is a benefit with long tenure, and I rise and speak in support of the bill. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I rise in support of amended House Joint Resolution 1. This legislation proposes changes to Article 4 of the Ohio Constitution, which currently states that no person shall be elected or appointed to any judicial office if or on before the day when they shall assume the office and enter upon the discharge of its duties, they shall have attained the age of 70 years. Amended House Joint Resolution would raise the age limitation for eligibility to serve as a judge from 70 years old to the age of 75. This section of Article 4 was last amended in 1973 by Ohio voters to adopt the age of 70 as being the mandated age of retirement for Ohio's judges. The quality of life and life expectancy has changed dramatically from 1973 to 2011, and raising the age limitations for judges is past due. When the current age limit was adopted over 40 years ago as part of the Modern Courts Amendment, the average U.S. life expectancy was 70 years of age. In 2009, the life expectancy has increased to 79 years. Individuals are living longer and are still mentally, physically, intellectually capable of working beyond expectations, conventional expectations in 1973. Raising the age limit would not create additional costs to the state or other funding agencies, since judges in the same courts are paid equally regardless of their years of services. Among other benefits, increasing the mandated age of retirement would allow for a more diverse judiciary with persons of different backgrounds, professional experiences, and practice areas. It may also encourage lawyers in private practice to consider judicial service later in their professional career, allowing for more balance between judges with public and private experience. Across the United States, the judicial age of retirement ranges from the age of 70 to no mandated age of retirement. It is important to note that in addition to judicial elections offering the opportunity for citizens to remove a judge from office, there are currently several other formal ways to deal with any judge that the public feels is not fulfilling their judicial responsibilities. Judges are subject to disciplinary system established by the Ohio Supreme Court, impeachment proceedings by the Ohio General Assembly, and they may be removed from office by concurrent resolution of the General Assembly. It's also important to note that, or to remember that amended House Joint Resolution does not change the age limitation for eligibility to serve as a judge. It allows Ohio voters to decide whether the age limit should be changed in this way. What we're doing is we're simply allowing the voters of Ohio to decide whether the judicial retirement age should be raised from 70 to 75. If amended House Joint Resolution 1 is favorably reported, this constitutional amendment will be voted on by Ohio voters in the November 8, 2011 general election. There are many people to thank for House Joint Resolution 1, particularly Representative Matt Huffman, who introduced and carried this bill through the House, and the members of the Senate Judiciary Civil Justice Committee that spent time in hearings and had their input into this bill as well. I urge a yes vote on the bill.